Folks, Bluesboy Jag here with yet another 3-string cigar box guitar lesson. This is by request. Norman Greenbaum and Spirit in the Sky. I remember this song when I was a kid coming on the radio before I knew much about music, and I was like, is that record scratched or something? Is there some kind of a problem? Maybe there's something wrong at the radio station because everything is super distorted. Although I didn't really know what distortion was back then. Anyway, this is a typical, believe it or not, John Lee Hooker boogie with just some psychedelic fuzz put on top of it. So let's get right to it. We're tuned to open G. That's an A string tuned down to G. And a D string tuned normal to D. And your first string is a G string tuned normal to G. G, D, and G. Now, I do have a whole bunch of fuzz or distortion on this particular song. I'm coming through my little cube amp here, and I've got the reverb turned up pretty far, and I've got the big muff distortion, or what people call fuzz. I had a big muff that was about that big, and it had a switch on it that was on or off, and a volume knob on it. It was a little tiny thing. And this is the exact same pedal, just kind of fancier, with 3 knobs. Massive amounts of distortion. Okay, so temporarily I'm going to turn off my distortion here so you can hear the true guitar coming through my amp with normal distortion, not super heavy-duty, syrupy, all over the map distortion, but we'll get to that in a second. So this is a boogie, like I said, John Lee Hooker, and we're doing a little bit of a shuffle on the upbeat. I'm bouncing up and down here to show you that's the upbeat. The downbeat is when my hand comes down, but the chord is on the upbeat, not the downbeat. I've got tons of John Lee Hooker style boogies all over my channel, which is exactly what this is. It's a John Lee Hooker style boogie. I'm using my thumb on the 3rd string and my 2nd finger on the 1st and my 1st finger on the 2nd. And I'm doing an up strum, and I'm choking with this hand. So if you notice, I'm doing that click at the end of that little riff on the down with my thumb. Also, I've got tons of reverb, as you can tell. So it's real important you start on the up strum. If you use a pick, it looks just like what I'm doing now, except I don't have a pick in my hands. I'm pretending like there's a pick in my hands. I normally do finger picking on a cigar box guitar, so if I need to do, quote, picking or strumming, I just pretend like I have a pick, but I don't. And I'm just using the nail of my 1st finger. So I'm borrowing all the way across on the 5th fret. If I'm tuned to G, that's going to be G, A, B, C. So I'm going to be going up to the 3rd fret, which is B. So I'm going to start out with the G, on the open chord. Then I'm going to go to the 5th fret, and then the 3rd fret, and then back to 0. So you're starting to see that John Lee Hooker boogie. So the trick is you're going to be choking with the fretting hand. If you haven't done this particular boogie, it's really not that difficult. You're just doing a lot of funky syncopation. And what is syncopation? Well, it's just chopping off these chords with your fretting hand. So I'm using my 3rd finger on that 5th fret, 1st finger on the 3rd fret. Now when he sings the song, he goes back and forth between the... That's the 5th fret, which is going to be G, A, B, C. Now we're going to go up to the 5 chord in this key. The 5 chord is the blues progression. So we're going to go up here to the 7th fret. And what chord is that? G, A, B, C, and D. So it's a typical blues chord progression, but it's slightly different. Because it's got that John Lee Hooker boogie feel to it. And it's not a shuffle. Well, it is a shuffle. Sort of like ZZ Top. Up strum. So you're starting it on the upbeat. So when your foot goes up, ba-da-da, 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 ba-bum, bum, ba-da, ba-da-da. So when my hand goes up, I'm strumming up, and when it goes down, I'm strumming down. It's really not that difficult to get the hang of it. Of course, I'm using my thumb on the 3rd string, and my 2nd finger on the 1st string, my 1st finger on the 2nd. This is the John Lee Hooker home base, I guess you'd say. This is where you would set up your fingers on the right strings and use your pinky to toggle off the body of the guitar. Choking with the fretting hand, as usual. So how would you solo on this particular song? We are in the key of what? If you want to play a solo, you can play up here in the pentatonic. And you want to make it kind of psychedelic, which means lots of vibrato, lots of slow bends. By the way, this is exactly B.B. King style. I mean, it is straight up B.B. King soloing. It just has a lot of that distortion and that kind of 60s vibe. But it is straight up B.B. King. It's a little bit funkier, obviously, than B.B. King might play. Well, maybe, maybe not, depending on what song you're talking about, I guess. Solos are going to be up here, major G, instead of major tom. So 1st finger is going to be on 112, and your 3rd finger is going to be 3 frets above that. Same thing on the 2nd, same thing on the 3rd. That just so happens to be the same thing down here, 3-0, 3-0, 3-0. This is just 12 notes higher. So you've got 2 spots right there. So you can refer back to my other lessons, and I've got a whole slew of them up on my channel. It shows you how to improvise in this key. The difference is, it needs to be bluesy, obviously, but the difference is it needs to be very psychedelic, which means a lot of slow bends. So here's what I would do. I'm not playing anything fancy. I'm just playing 0, 3, 0, 3, 0, 3, which just means all 3 strings, 0 and 3, and 5. So between those notes, you can come up with a really cool slow blues. And just kind of get that psychedelic sound on your guitar and your amp. That means lots of reverb and lots of distortion. But it is straight up blues, 100% blues. If you took away the reverb and the distortion and you played that, it would be totally 1950 blues. So it's a real easy pentatonic scale. And you want to do some slow bends. So here's your riff. Man, that is straight out of the Boogie King guitar book. John Lee Hooker. Now I'm getting carried away and playing too fast. You want to kind of keep the solo slow. So don't forget, 12th fret up here. That's exactly 12 frets above this. Exactly 12 frets higher. So that's the easy way to improvise on this particular song. One thing I like to do is first finger is on 1-3, third finger is on 2-5. That gives you a nice kind of a dissonant lick here, which creates tension. So what I would recommend is playing along with the song and simply jamming over the verses, jamming over the singing, so you can get a feel for the rhythm and you can get a feel for the notes that fit in the scale. So real quick, 3-0, 3-0, 3-0 on all 3 strings. You can also add 5 in there. You can also add the in-between notes between 3 and 5. And you don't want to get too busy and too fast, because this is kind of a groovy, slow blues, greasy. So have fun with that. Check out my new website, bluesboyjag.com. Cigar box guitars for 20 years. Hard to believe. Please subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Ooh, there's a train.